Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shane Sarley, the Mayor of Greater Shepparton, and with me today I have Gary Rundwana, our Director of Infrastructure, and Liam Muller, our Manager of Resource Recovery. We appreciate you joining us, whether it's now live or when you watch this in your own time as well. We obviously understand a big decision was made at Council on Tuesday night, and that was to move ahead with our latest curbside collection policy, and a part of that is a transition to what we're going to be rolling out in the back end of March. We're here to give you as much information as we possibly can in this first step of many steps over this journey that we'll be taking as a community, but we're also going to be trying to address as many questions as we possibly can that have come through over the course of the last couple of days. Before I do go any further, I would like to acknowledge that the Greater Shepparton City Council acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Really important that we bring two people that are really across this. Obviously, it's a big change to our community, so we're going to try and address as many of your concerns as possible. I'll now hand over to Gary, our Director of Infrastructure, to start the session.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Good afternoon to all joining live and to those who will listen to this recording later on. We wanted to take the opportunity to just run through some background and some research that assisted in Council making the decision to commence this curbside collection reform, the transition, and the first stage of that for Kyella and Tatura residents, which is the frequency change for the red bins going fortnightly from a weekly collection, and the green bins going from fortnightly, to weekly collection. We've got some slides to just take you through some very, very basic data, and we'll go straight into questions shortly. First on our slide, we've got really just a basic slide to just outline what goes into my red bin. So all this information is also available on Council website as well, but I will just quickly go through our general rubbish. Really only consists of a very few items, which is your broken glassware, crockery and mirrors, nappies, wet wipes, kitty litters, old clothing, shoes or textile that can't be repaired or donated, and loose jar lids and bottle caps, pumps, sprays and droppers. For all the other information, won't go into too much detail for the live session purposes, but it's all on our website. Next one we've got, just to highlight the frequency change, what that means, particularly for stage 1 Kyella Tatura residents. As mentioned before, the frequency change of the bin collection will be green bins weekly, yellow bins fortnightly, red bins fortnightly. Why do we need this frequency change? What I have on the slide that you can see is the data from our recently done audit, which highlights in the red bin, which is the left side of the chart, is only 40% of that bin is actually the residual waste. 30% of that was recycling waste, and 30% was green or FOGO, as we call it, food organics or garden organics. And as you can see from the FOGO bin, 97% of that is garden and food organics, so our community is doing an absolutely exceptional job in making sure all of that food organics goes for decomposing purposes. So this is primarily the reason why the red bin moves to fortnightly, and the 30% of the bin that in the red bin that is green or food organics can then be responsibly managed in the FOGO bins weekly. Next slide, we've got two more slides, just showing very briefly the areas that will form part of the stage 1 rollout. First one we've got is Kyella, and the second slide we've got Tatura. All this information will be available on Council website, particularly the maps from early next week, where you'll be able to clearly identify your property, whether it fits within the stage 1 boundaries. We'll now go back to answering some of the questions that we're receiving live on the feed, and I'll pass over to Liam to just pick up some of the questions. Thanks, Liam.
Thank you, Gary. The first question we have is why the green bins become a weekly service. Recycling or red bins being weekly would be more appropriate.
Yeah, So the green bin becoming weekly, as we outlined, most of our waste is, we'd like to say waste is not really a waste, it's a resource that we can recover. The green waste or the food and garden organics is what makes up the best part of the two bins between the red and the green bin. Therefore, from a cost perspective, firstly, that we talk about, and responsible environmental perspective, from both those perspectives, it's the weekly green organics and fortnightly red lit bin is the best way to responsibly dispose of those resources, as well as minimise the cost increase.
Excellent. And with relation to families with young children, the question is, what about those dealing with dirty nappies?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, the nappies, unfortunately, we do have some part of our community that are using reusable nappies, so we obviously do encourage that. For those who choose to opt for disposable nappies, unfortunately do go in the red bin and they do end up in the landfill. For the larger families, as part of our policy, we do have the option to upsize for those who will struggle to manage the one bin, depending on what size bin you have. You will have options to upsize your bin. You'll have option for an additional bin for those first few years, while the families are growing.
Next question is in relation to the purple bags that are being made available for collection at our kitchen counter for food organics. And if we're relying on a weekly green bin service, will council look to deliver more purple bags, and what are the options there for food disposal?
Yeah, absolutely. So council is committed to doing a delivery of those purple bags annually, and on top of that, if residents do require additional bags, they are available at multiple sites across council offices, transfer stations, and a number of other sites. The details of those are available on our website, so I do encourage all the community members to jump on council website for those locations. But absolutely, from fortnightly going to weekly, there's absolutely going to be a need for reliance on more disposable liners in your caddies, and council is fully prepared and resourced to supply our community with those purple nappies.
The next question relates to the rates and charges. Will the council reduce our rates due to a reduction in red bin service?
Yeah, look, and this is a particular theme that we picked up. So whilst the red bin is the frequency at which we will service the red bins is reducing, the green bin service is increasing, and part of our intention with this frequency change is to, well, it's two parts. One is to reduce the waste going to landfill, and second, which really stems out of that first part, is to keep the cost at a manageable level. Just to give our community just a very basic idea, the cost of waste in the red bin is between 3 to 4 times higher than the cost of what goes in your FOGO bin for the processing of that waste. So by using this model that council has adopted, we are responding to the ever-escalating cost of managing our waste.
Excellent. Next question relates to options for upsizing or additional red bins. So we have a resident that needs to put out their bins every week and do recycle appropriately for commingled and FOGO resources. Is there an option for a bigger red bin?
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned, for those who have needs, and it could be for various reasons, please do contact our waste department through council's general contact details, and submit your request for whether it's an upsize or an additional bin.
Wonderful. This question would relate to those within rural properties, and what about those who cannot currently get a green bin?
Sure, and that's again another one of the theme from a lot of the questions getting asked from the community members. So we are, as Mayor Sali mentioned before, council this Tuesday adopted the kerbside collection policy, and as part of that policy, we aim to standardise our services, our kerbside collection services, that is, from next year. And as part of that, for any residents opting for council's curbside collection service. It'll be a standardised service initially for the 3 bins, being the red, green and yellow, and from March next year onwards we will be adopting the state government initiated plan of 4 bins with an addition of purple bin for glass.
We have a question that also refers to families with nappies, which we've addressed earlier. But on this point of medical needs and incontinence aids and managing the smell associated.
So 2-part question. So I'll address the fullness of the bin. So as mentioned before, we will have that option provided to those who need that option, is to upsize or add an additional bin, whichever suits particular scenarios and circumstances. And for the smellness of the bins, a lot of data has been gathered from various agencies, various state agencies, etc. And there are certain guidelines to dispose of the particulars like nappies, etc. You double bag them. The storage of the bin comes in handy in these circumstances as well. We encourage residents to store not just your red bins that smell a little bit more than the other bins, but all bins in an undershade area to reduce and manage that smell a lot better.
Question in relation to the standardised curbside collection, and the question relates to the opt-out for green and purple bins.
Sure. Unfortunately, as this will not be an option. Council is committed to responsibly providing the curbside collection service and managing the waste and meeting the state-led target of reduction of waste by the certain timeframes for the state of Victoria. It's 80% reduction of waste going to landfill by 2030, and it is absolutely important that we provide a standard service, a service that is targeted to reducing waste, which sits on the top of the waste hierarchy to ensure we've got a sustainable future.
The next question relates to monitoring the success of the rollout and the notion of illegal dumping and the monitoring control process that we'll be undertaking.
Sure. That's a very good question. We are committed once the rollout begins, in fact even before the rollout, in the lead up to this decision, constant and ongoing audits are conducted for your bins, what goes into your bins, how illegal disposal, illegal dumping is managed. We continue to monitor that. We will be accelerating our efforts in this space once the stage 1 rollout begins and throughout this transition to ensure that we keep on top of the data that we collect and further improve on those curbside collection services and help educate our community to improve and to continue to improve and evolve in this space.
Wonderful. The next question relates to, have other council municipalities undertaken a frequency change similar to what we will be undertaking?
Sure. Great question. We at Greater Shepparton City Council always strive to be the leaders in a lot of the things, and we often are the leaders in a lot of the things. Unfortunately, in this case, we are not the leaders, but we're not far behind. There are a few councils, I don't have the exact number, but as for in 2021, there were 7 councils who had undertaken the 4-bin model, as well as the frequency change. Our neighbouring council is one of those leading councils that have undertaken the frequency change for quite some years now, and we were in constant discussions with the council to understand their learnings and apply that learning in order for us to provide that service even better.
Wonderful. And next question relates to charges again, and will we be charged extra for purple glass bins?
Yeah, so the rollout of the purple bins across our municipality for those who are opting for the curbside collection services by council, we'll have that standardised service from March next year. Dates will be confirmed on our website. There will be a charge that will be additional for the service. However, I must make it very clear that the cost to the cost of commingled recycling with the glass in it is a lot more higher than separating the glass. So whilst there might be an early cost of the additional bin, it is in fact offsetting the higher cost to manage, collect, dispose and process the commingled recycling with glass.
The next question relates again to concerns over illegal dumping and commitment to monitoring programs around the municipality.
Yeah, illegal dumping is certainly evident across our municipality. I can say with conversations with other councils across the state, it's not as bad as some of the other councils face, so we try to learn from how this is managed. We and most of our staff, our on-ground staff, are always on the lookout to report illegal dumping. There are EPA provisions that allow us to enforce legal dumping through various channels as well. So all of those ideas and provisions are exercised by council to minimise the illegal dumping as best as we can.
A question relates to specific collection units or points of cans and bottles in relation to the container deposit scheme.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, container deposit scheme is something that has been discussed for quite a long time in the state of Victoria. The Victorian State Government has made a commitment to roll out container deposit scheme across various local government areas. The dates are confirmed. We urge the community to jump on the Recycling Victoria and Sustainability Victoria website for accurate information. This will be placed in public space areas, so it won't be a service that will be provided to the residential customers. It will be mainly located in the public space areas.
Wonderful. And what are the governing bodies involved with setting targets and directives for this frequency change program?
Yeah, so state government introduced Recycling Victoria, a new division, if you like, under the state government direction. The Recycling Victoria Act, the Circular Economy Act 2021 was introduced, and as part of that act, there is an implementation plan, and in that implementation plan, it is committed by the state government that across the state, a 4-bin model to provide the curbside collection services is to be rolled out by 2027, and the bigger target is to reduce the waste going to landfill and responsible waste management practices by 2030.
Now, there is a question in relation to the stage 1 and how long that will be implemented for until we roll out to the remaining areas. There is a notion of a trial period, but it is a stage 1, stage 2 rollout.
Yeah. So perhaps a clarification on this is we are doing it in stages. So this is a permanent change that council has agreed to and committed to. And we're doing it in stages, so it can be a softer approach to transitioning in and learning along the way, taking our community along the way, along this journey, and learning from each of those stages. Kyle and Tatura are stage 1. Stage 2 will focus on the frequency change across the municipality, and stage 3 next year from March 2024 onwards will be the rollout of purple bin across the municipality.
This question relates to the monitoring of the successful rate of adoption for the change and what measures will be undertaken to gain those metrics.
Yeah, the ongoing audit is one of the critical ones in this space to measure the success. We will continue to monitor the behaviour change practices across those 2 areas and the community within those 2 areas, and the premise of those audit data will be used to learn how the community is adapting, using that data to further educate and improve those behaviour change practices that are so very important in this transition and making this transition successful.
And we do have some comments around the glass diversion from the yellow lid bin. For those that may not regularly dispose of glass, the purpose of separating from the yellow bin.
Yeah. Yes. Look at this. We are aware that there are residents who don't use the glass as much as some of the others. We have seen in other municipalities where the glass service is working well. There are certain, it is a monthly service generally across those councils that are using purple bin, and some of those bins are overflowing, others are barely making it to halfway over the month. The large proportion of those purple bins are in fact getting up to 70 to 80% fullness, therefore warranting purple bin service. And for those who don't perhaps in some months utilise it as much as others, it's a service that standardised service works better from a commercial perspective and from a contract management perspective as well.
This question comes from concerns with the notion of illegal dumping, and is there consideration for hard rubbish pickup service?
Yeah, hard rubbish is an interesting one. We do have 3 transfer stations across the Greater Shepparton local government area. They do work really well. It is within a manageable proximity, but we're always looking for improving our services, and we'll continue to monitor if hard waste collection is feasible in the coming years. At this stage, we believe through our waste management team and the data that we collect on an ongoing basis, that the 3 transfer stations service quite adequately for the community that uses the hard waste disposal.
In relation to the purple bins, will there be an option of a small and large size capacity, and is there a cost associated with the purple bin service?
Yeah, so the purple bin at this stage will be a standard bin service, standard size, standard size of the purple bin, and as mentioned previously, there will be an element of cost associated, but that element of cost quite easily offsets the increasing cost of managing commingled recycling with the addition of the glass. So to make it simple, if we don't introduce a glass bin, the recycling, the commingled recycling with the addition of glass is deemed contaminated or contaminated to a point where it takes longer for the processing facilities to separate the glass out of those other consumables, therefore attracts a higher cost. Separating the glass out attracts a lower cost for processing, therefore offsetting the additional cost for introducing the purple bin.
This question relates to those with shared bin on units and flats, and the storage of those bins on the premises.
Yep. Yes, we understand that for some multi-unit developments and for those living in those units, there might be multiple units, and each of those units may have 4 bins per unit, and your space at the front of your property along the curb may not be enough. For those units, our team is working on finding a better solution. So we do have some time, and which is why council's decided to roll this service out in stages. So for those multi-unit properties that have space as a limitation, we will work with you and provide an alternative solution. What that alternative solution is at this stage, we are still in the research and investigation stage of it, but we will provide information well before the rollout period commences.
And for those that are tenants and a landlord may not be willing to facilitate an upsize of bin, how can the tenant contact council to discuss further?
Yep, sure. So a request for the occupant of the property, the occupant of the property can be made directly to council. And if it is a arrangement between the landlord and the tenant, we're happy to assist on case-by-case basis. But essentially, if you are the leaseholder for the property where you're residing, you should be connected directly to the kerbside collection service, in which case you can make a direct contact or query to council, and our waste team will more than happily assist you.
And what considerations are there for larger families and the options for increased capacity of the red bin being upsized or additional bins?
Yeah. So for larger families, we would encourage, as a first step, to contact our waste team. We're more than happy to come out to your property and actually work with you on what goes in your red bin and where efficiencies can be made. For the reasons that I personally feel hard to believe, we've got a very competent waste team. If we can't provide you enough information and enough efficiency opportunities to reduce your waste so the little bin serves your family, the upsize of the bin and additional bin options are available.
Wonderful. And leading into that again is the notion of costs associated with upsizing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that cost, there will be upsizing or additional bin will attract a cost, and it is the cost that is directly related to generating more waste, and for those opting for an additional bin, it will require picking up of the additional bins, so there will be a marginal cost associated to whether you choose an upsizing of the bin or an additional bin.
Excellent. We do have a question here about a damaged bin, which I will take on note myself personally and action early next week.
Yes.
Another question here is, has consideration been made for a weekly recycling collection service? And what were the discussion points there?
Yeah, sure. Weekly collection is, I'd like to start, by way of responding to this question, I'd like to start with the waste hierarchy. Our first and foremost focus is reducing what goes into your bin initially. Standing data audits, not only within our municipality but across the state and across the nation, shows that a reasonable sized family responsibly managing their waste can manage a 240 litre recycling bin over a fortnight period. Our audit also supports that across the municipality, where the bin fullness of the recycling bin over a fortnight was within those manageable standards of between 60 to 70% on an average. We understand there will be some families that generate more recycling waste. There are a lot of key points that our waste team can work with you on, and how to maximise the usage of your recycling bin, whether it's compaction, doing the compaction right, or generally reducing the reliance on some of those recyclables and offsetting it with some other consumables.
Next question is in relation to appropriate waste disposal, and are residents able to place rubbish beside the bin at collection time?
Yeah. Depending on which bin this is, we will encourage that the bins are used for the purpose of disposing of your waste. The bins are used and not to place any rubbish on the sides of the bin. Again, I'll go back to responsible waste management practices. So for those residents and community members that are finding it hard to work out, how to use the bins, which bin, where things go, again, please contact the waste team, and we'll be happy to work with you on a case-by-case basis and gather more information to better guide and educate our community.
Wonderful. This question has been answered earlier, but may not have seen the response. Will ratepayers receive tip vouchers?
Yep. The short answer is, at this stage, it is not being considered by council. We have got transfer station facilities across our municipality. A lot of the waste, if responsibly handled, can be disposed of either for free or at a very, very low cost. So we do encourage that we commit to, as a community, we commit to reducing waste. So there's no need to rely upon the likes of tip vouchers and other things in the event that we do need to dispose those things off that may not go in your bins, such as your e-waste is a big one, that can go directly into our landfills at no cost.
Next question relates to the data for successful adoption of a frequency change and how that has significantly reduced waste to landfill. Are there metrics available for reference from previous rollout programs?
Yes, yes. A lot of research has been done in this space, and there's a lot of evidence-based data available, both on our council website that is sourced from our own audits, other municipalities that have been practicing frequency change that has aided to the reduction of waste and other waste, food and other waste diverted away from the landfills. And there's also a lot of evidence-based data on Sustainability Victoria website as well. For those who are particularly interested in gaining that data, I would urge to contact the council's waste department, and we'll be happy to provide that data to you.
Next question has been answered earlier, but just in relation to the disposal of nappies and concerns around the odour over a fortnightly period.
Yeah, so there's a lot of research, as mentioned before, has been done around this odour management, and the best practice for reducing and minimising, almost mitigating the odour is double wrapping the nappies and keeping the bins under shade. That reduces to almost mitigates any smell evident from your red bins.
This next question relates to making information available to residents for what items that can be received at the resource recovery centres for free. And that's one that I can take on note and ensure that we have the appropriate information out there to inform a free reception of items.
Excellent.
And the next question is around the ultimate decision to commence with the frequency change and the process around that.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, so the decision around the frequency change to be implemented and the discussions that occurred leading up to that decision.
Yeah. So Council's Waste and Resource Recovery Department has been investigating in conversations with our counterparts as well as the state government for well over 12 months, and our councillors have been informed on an ongoing basis. I might pass on to Mayor Sarli to respond to the decision making that happened at the council meeting.
Yeah, so just the question again, Liam, was it regarding how did we get to this point where we made the decision? So yeah, we've had ongoing briefings regarding this important change that was to come to our community. There were initial ideas put forward to roll this out last year. Council acknowledged that on the back of the flood and leading into the Christmas and warmer months that wouldn't be an appropriate step, and we felt that a staged rollout would be the best circumstance for our community and family. That moving forward, we would roll out in Kyala and Taktura, and then work towards the remainder of Greater Shepparton from March and leading into April and so forth. Obviously, the decision was made at Tuesday's February council meeting, and that was supported by a majority of councillors to move ahead with that, acknowledging that most of this is under a mandatory form as well, with the purple bin, as well as the reduction of waste to landfill by up to 80% by 2030. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Ms. Howard.
We have a question in relation to not everyone being able to access or understand the website and accessing information. I can assure that we have a wide-reaching engagement program on social media, in person, and with brochures being made available throughout this course of frequency change.
Yeah, and also if I can add to Liam's response as well, is that over the next weeks and throughout the journey between stage 1 and the final stages, councils, various officers and various teams will be out and about in various forms. Live Q&A sessions will commence on a weekly basis. So I want to inform our viewers that this is not the only live Q&A session. We will be performing and undertaking a live Q&A every week. There will be stands. We'll be doing community sessions. We'll be going out to the schools. We'll be dropping letters in a hard copy, providing all of this information. We do also take the feedback if the website's not clear, that we will work on that and provide some better clarity and usability on our website.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Gary. I'll now pass over to Councillor Sally.
Yeah, thank you, Liam, and obviously Gary as well. And we appreciate community that joined us live and those that will obviously watch it in their own time as well. So there is a lot of information available on our website as well and across our social platforms, and hopefully we've been able to answer as many questions as possible. This will be available ongoing across our social platforms, that right, this live stream as well, so please catch up when you can on those particular points that you're trying to address. As I said, it is an important and big decision for our whole community, and something that, as I mentioned earlier, myself and my own family will be going through it as well. I've got a young daughter, she's still in nappies, and something that I'll have to be working through as well, and that challenge that I, amongst many others in our community, will be facing as well, and a large growing family. So we hear you, we're working through it. There's going to be a lot of information over the course of the next month into the first stage rollout. It's going to be reviewed ongoing, so you need to have confidence that we're constantly reviewing this, and please take up the option of contacting the waste team to help with assisting you through better waste diversion, so we can get this as good as we possibly can. So as I mentioned, please catch up on this information through our socials and across our website, but most importantly, thank you for joining us, and we'll be speaking with you again. There's going to be a lot of training and education coming your way over the course of the next month and into the future as well. Thank you and have a good afternoon.